A thin layer of winter fog curled around Maple Street the morning 8-year-old Lily pressed her face to the frosted window, whispering a wish she was too afraid to say out loud. She had no idea that the letter she wrote the night before, addressed not to the North Pole but to Santa at the corner office, was already on its way to changing her life. She didn't know that somewhere across the city, a widowed CEO named Jonathan Hale was staring at her messy handwriting and feeling his heartbeat do something it hadn't done in years. Hope. And by the time he stood on her doorstep with that letter in his hand, everything she thought she knew about miracles would shift. Hook. What happens when a child asks Santa for something money can't buy, and Santa actually shows up? Lily huddled at the small kitchen table, listening to her mother hum softly while packing discount store groceries away. The heater rattled like it was begging to retire, and the windows still leaked cold air. Lily swung her feet under her chair, trying to distract herself by glancing at the mailbox every few seconds. She didn't know if her letter would work. She didn't even know if grown-up problems were allowed in Christmas wishes. But she had written it anyway, carefully, her tongue sticking out the side of her mouth as she printed each shaky word. Dear Santa at the corner office, can you bring my mom happiness again? I don't want toys this year. She cries when she thinks I'm asleep. I saw a picture of your big building on TV. It looks like where a real grown-up Santa would work. If you can, please help us. Also, if you are too busy, that's okay. I just wanted to try, love, Lily. Then she'd slid it into the mailbox outside the grocery store, even though she'd seen no red suit and no sleigh, just busy people rushing past. Across town, in a glass high-rise overlooking the city, Jonathan Hale sat at his desk long after his employees had gone home. The CEO of Hale Innovations, widowed for almost 4 years, still hadn't learned how to silence the echo in his penthouse apartment. His wife's laughter haunted empty rooms. His son, who lived with his grandparents out of state, barely answered his calls anymore. Some nights Jonathan wondered if he had forgotten how to feel anything at all. So when the intern accidentally dropped a stack of letters addressed to Santa at the corner office, collected from the company's annual charity mailbox, he ignored the colorful envelopes, until one plain white one slipped to the floor. It was bent at the corner, smudged with chocolate thumbprints. Something about its imperfection pulled him in. He opened it. By the time he finished reading Lily's letter, Jonathan wasn't sitting. He was gripping the edge of his desk, staring at the child's handwriting as if it had punched a hole straight through the numbness he'd built around himself. A mother who cried alone. A little girl asking Santa not for presents, but for her mother's happiness. A pain that felt far too familiar. Jonathan leaned back, exhaling a shaky breath. Something inside him refused to let this letter be just another holiday request. The next morning, he asked his driver to take him to the return address. That's how, 3 days before Christmas, Jonathan Hale, billionaire CEO, widower, and a man who had forgotten how to hope, ended up standing on a narrow porch, knocking quietly on a weathered door, clutching Lily's letter in his gloved hand. Lily's mother, Emily, opened the door cautiously. Her eyes widened at the sight of the sharply dressed stranger, his breath clouding in the cold air. Hi, he said gently, lifting the letter. I think your daughter wrote to me. And from inside the house, Lily gasped. End of hook. Leading into Chapter 1 and 2 below. Chapter 1. Lily darted to her mother's side, gripping the doorframe. Her eyes shone with disbelief as she stared up at the man whose scarf probably cost more than their rent. You're Santa, she whispered. Jonathan knelt, his breath catching. I'm someone who got your letter. And I wanted to make sure I understood your wish correctly. Emily looked mortified. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. She must have mailed it by accident. She's very imaginative, Mom. Lily tugged her sleeve. He came. I knew he would. Jonathan smiled softly. It wasn't a mistake. And your letter, it mattered. Emily flushed, pulling her old cardigan tighter around her arms. Look, sir, we appreciate the visit, but we're fine. Really? But Jonathan could see the exhaustion behind her polite smile, the cracks she had patched over with courage, the hollow ache in her eyes, the same one he carried everywhere. Can we talk? He asked. Just for a few minutes. Emily hesitated, then moved aside. Lily scampered to the table, clearing her crayons and sliding out a chair for their guest. Jonathan sat down awkwardly, unused to chipped plates and the smell of cinnamon oatmeal cooling on the stove. Emily clasped her hands. "I hope my daughter didn't give the impression we're asking for anything." "You're not," he said, shaking his head. "But your daughter's letter, it reminded me what this season is supposed to mean." He explained how her letter reached him, how it stopped him in his tracks. Emily's eyes grew softer at the sincerity in his voice, then Lily chimed in, swinging her legs. "Mom works every day. She's tired. I just wanted her to smile again." Jonathan swallowed the lump in his throat. Emily brushed a tear away, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "Don't be," Jonathan said. For the first time in years, he felt the ache of empathy instead of the numbness of loss. That he asked if he could help them, perhaps with groceries, with heating repairs, with anything. But Emily shook her head each time. "We're managing," she insisted. "Barely, but we are." He admired her pride, her resilience. But he also saw the weight pressing down on her shoulders. Lily quickly jumped in again, changing the subject with childlike bluntness. "Do CEOs get Christmas Eve off?" Jonathan blinked, startled. "Not usually." Her eyes widened. "Even Santa?" He chuckled, an unfamiliar sound. "Even Santa. You could come here," Lily announced. "Mom makes good cookies. Better than store ones." "Lily," Emily warned softly, but Jonathan's face warmed. I'd like that." The conversation flowed naturally after that, surprisingly warm. For a moment Jonathan felt more at home in that tiny apartment than he had in years. When he finally stood to leave, Lily hugged him tightly. He froze, unprepared. "Thank you for coming," she said into his coat. His throat tightened. "Thank you for writing." And as he walked back to his car, he realized something extraordinary. He wanted to return, not out of pity, not out of obligation, but because in that tiny home, with its peeling wallpaper and mismatched chairs, he felt something he hadn't felt since losing his wife, human again. Jonathan returned 2 nights later, carrying a small box of cookies from a famous bakery, not to outshine Emily, but because Lily had insisted that Santa needed snacks too. Inside, the apartment was livelier. Emily had strung old Christmas lights around the window. Lily, wearing reindeer pajamas, ran to greet him. "You came back. I said I would." Emily appeared from the kitchen, her cheeks flushed from baking. She smiled, tentative but real. For a while they sipped hot cocoa and decorated the tiny tree Lily had made from cardboard and glitter. Jonathan helped tape ornaments to the branches, getting more glitter on himself than the tree. Laughter bubbled from Lily, and then from Emily, soft, unsure, as if she hadn't heard her own voice in a long time. Jonathan didn't know where to place his emotions. He hadn't smiled this much in years. He hadn't felt this alive. Later, after Lily went to bed, Emily thanked him again, but he shook his head immediately. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "I lost my wife 4 years ago. My home hasn't felt like a home since. Your daughter's letter, it gave me something to look forward to. And you've both given me something I didn't know I needed." Emily's eyes softened with sympathy, not pity, but understanding. "You've been carrying that alone?" she asked. That he nodded. "You don't have to," she whispered. The words hit him harder than she could know. Before he left, Lily came out from her room one last time, sleepy and blinking. "Santa," she mumbled. "Yes. Did you bring my mom happiness?" Jonathan looked at Emily, her soft eyes, her warm expression, her quiet strength, and then back at Lily. "I'm trying," he said gently. "And I'm not going anywhere." Lily smiled, satisfied, and padded back to bed. Jonathan stepped outside into the cold night. Emily walked him to the door. "Thank you," she said, her voice warm. "For everything." "No," he whispered, his breath visible in the winter air. "Thank you for letting me in." He walked down the snowy steps, feeling something shift inside him, something he thought had died, hope. From that night forward, Jonathan visited often. Not with gifts, not with money, just with presence, laughter, and an open heart. And slowly, beautifully, the three of them began to stitch together something new, a different kind of family, built not from wealth or wishes, but from healing, courage, and the letter of a little girl who simply wanted her mom to smile again, and this time, Santa really did deliver.